Hey everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's 5 on Friday, I'm here to bring to you my next 5-star prediction vlog. So it's that time again. It's time for me to dive into my 5-star predictions. If you haven't watched that video, I will try to remember to link it in the cards above, but these are the 5 books I'm going to be reading. I've got some high hopes here. I feel pretty good about getting at least one 5-star, and I'm here because I've already read one of them, and that is The Library of Borrowed Hearts. And I gave this one 4.25 stars, but I did really enjoy it, even though it wasn't a 5-star. In this one, we're following Chloe, who is struggling to take care of her younger brothers and her younger sister after her mom kind of bailed on them. She ends up finding this really rare book in the library as they're getting rid of some old inventory and realizes she could sell it for money since they were getting rid of it anyways. And of course, we have a CLO. And before she can really list it to be sold, her neighbor, who's a bit of a grouch, ends up finding out about it and offers to buy it for way more than she would think it was worth. However, she's also noticed that there are notes scribbled in the margin of these books, like 2 people having a conversation, and she soon finds other books that have these same kind of notes in the same handwriting, and really wants to know what happened to the 2 people who was leaving notes in these books. And what does this have to do with her next door neighbor and why he was so insistent on snatching that book up from her and buying it. So then we follow Chloe as she tries to put the pieces together, gets to know more about her neighbor, and we learn more about the 2 people who were writing back and forth in these books. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was charming. I really liked the relationship between Chloe and her siblings. I liked seeing the relationship between her neighbor Jasper and her family develop, because he ends up interacting with all the kids at one point or another. There was a twist I saw coming, and it wasn't necessarily a bad one that I kind of figured it out, but I did find some of the bits and pieces to it very intriguing. This gave me a lot of good feels. It was just missing some things that would have made it that 5-star, but I had a really good time with it, and would definitely like to read more from Lucy Gilmore in the future, because I like the way she kind of crafted her story. And we get a bunch of different POVs, so I also thought that was fun, because we get POVs from several characters in the present, but also characters from the past who were doing the writing in these books. So very into how Lucy Gilmore structures a story, and would love to read more of her works and see if I enjoy those as well. So that is my first update. Not the 5 stars hoping for, but still a decent rating. I feel pretty confident that one of these is going to get a 5-star. I know that these 3 are on my May TBR, so you should hear me talk about these 3 relatively soon, given that it is already May 19th. So I should be reading these in the next week or so, and then this one is on my June TBR. So you should get a vlog from me for these. Let's see. We're going to guesstimate. If I do this right, maybe my vlog for June 6th. That would be interesting. So let's see. Can I get all of these read so I can film my vlog and let you know what I thought of them and get the video out by June 6th? I will be very curious to see if y'all are seeing this on June 6th. Fingers crossed. But I'm going to go so that I can continue to work on these and all of the other books on my TBR. And I will check back in with you when I have an update on one of these. And just please note Sir Bug's up in his tower, because I know Cielo likes to steal the show, but there is a Bug up there too. Right, Buggy? Right, Bug? Isn't he handsome? We will see you again soon, and don't be surprised if he's in the background of that video too. So we're back, and there's only 2 days left in May, but I have finished all 3 books that were left on my May TBR from 5-star predictions, and I'm going to let you know what I thought of them. So first up, I finished I'm That Girl by Jordan Chiles, and I meant to hold it in this hand so you guys could keep an eye on Bugsy. So there's Bug. So I finished this, and I gave this 5 stars. This is Jordan's memoir, and if you don't know who Jordan is, she is one of the American gymnasts that competed for Team USA in the 2024 Olympics. I believe she also competed for us in 2020, but she is a very decorated gymnast. And we get to see how she got into gymnastics, her journey, a lot of the stuff she had to deal with, because she definitely had a not so great coach that really messed with her. And also, being Black and doing gymnastics, and how she was treated differently than the white girls and the racism and hatred she faced growing up. And I just thought this was incredibly brilliant. I loved Jordan's story. I had no idea how many obstacles she had to overcome, all of the self-doubt and the mental toll that this sport really takes on you. And I like that she highlighted that. I know that some people don't enjoy the ending of this book because, if, again, you don't know, there is a controversy with one of her events where her coach put in an inquiry. Her score got changed due to said inquiry, and she went from 5th to 3rd and got the bronze. And Romania, who placed 4th and 5th, ended up kind of contesting that inquiry, and it's been this whole quagmire of who is the bronze medalist. And that is still up in the air due to challenges and, legalities. So we don't really know where that's going. But I still loved to get Jordan's insight on it and get to hear her talk about it in her own words, while everything was probably still rather fresh. And I think it is very interesting seeing her motivations, her thought process, how she feels about things, how she was treated because of things, and the amount of strength Jordan has as a person is just so self-evident throughout all of this. I just had such an amazing time with this book. It was just really, really enjoyable, and would highly recommend this, and so glad that I ended up picking it up because it was a impulse buy one day when I think I got like 40% off or something at like Books A Million, and went, oh yeah, I didn't even know this was a thing. I want this book, and said, let's get it. So really, really glad I did. And I can definitely see me rereading this in the future because I had that good of a time with it. And it would just be interesting to get to relive that all over again, especially, maybe once we know more about what ends up being the final verdict with Jordan and the bronze medal. Then I read The House at the Edge of Magic and gave this 3.75 stars. So it did not hit 5 stars. This follows Nine, who is an orphan. And one day she pickpockets this lady and ends up with an ornament that has a tiny miniature house in it. And she ends up knocking on the door of the house, like using the door knocker. And the house grows, and she ends up going inside and finding out that there's been a curse placed on this house. And the first person to knock on the door, Nine, is the only one that can break that curse. So then she has to decide if she wants to get involved. And if so, how do you break this curse? So I thought this was cute. I liked Nine. I liked the individuals she found in the house and the personalities that they had. They're all very different and unique and fun. I liked learning about the magic of this world and how this house ended up getting cursed, trying to piece together why and how to fix it. I liked learning about the different aspects of the curse in the house, because it wasn't just that the house was shrunk. There was a whole list of things that were happening in this house that were part of the curse. And I thought that was very intriguing. I liked learning about Nine's backstory. I just felt that it was a bit simple. And while it was cute, I maybe wanted a little bit more. It was a very fast read too, so it's short. So I think it's more on the earlier end of middle grade, but it is definitely a series I can see myself continuing. Maybe not one that I keep and reread, but definitely one that I want to continue, which is good because I've pre-ordered, I believe, book 2. So it is probably a good thing that I enjoyed this enough to want to continue. So I'm curious to see where Nine goes in book 2. And I had a good time with this one. It just wasn't a 5-star. And then my last 5-star that I read in May is Dragon Riders of Roar, and I gave this 4 stars. So this is the 4th book in the Roar series, and we're back with Arthur and Rose, and they are once again headed back to the land of Roar, but things have changed. There is now a school for dragon riders, and one of their friends has ended up there, and so they set off to go see their friend, learn more about this school, and realize that there might be some danger lurking at the school that they weren't expecting. I feel like this book did a really good job of bringing Roar to life, once again, capturing that whimsical, magical tone. However, there were some things I didn't enjoy, and that was Arthur and Rose being surprised that this dragon school was here when they definitely shouldn't have been surprised that Roar changed, given their past history with Roar. Rose's attitude definitely rubbed me wrong in a lot of ways in the beginning of this book, though I did like how she kind of had a bit of a reality check throughout the book and kind of realized some things. And I wished they had spent more time really exploring that because of how her attitude was. I did like the journey the kids went on. I liked the dragon school, even though it felt very generic and very kind of based on the ideas of other magic schools I've read about. Like, it wasn't really creating anything new. In some ways, it honestly felt like a bit of a mashup between the series that shall not be named and Fourth Wing. Now, granted, I don't think that Jenny McLaughlin was inspired by Fourth Wing, and there are definitely some huge differences, but there were certain instances of the way things were with the dragons at the school that reminded me of Fourth Wing, which sounds really weird, but maybe if you've read both, you'll know what I'm talking about. I just thought that was really interesting to have that little tidbit that just reminded me of this book that in a lot of ways could not be further from like the Land of Roar, and like on opposite sides of, like, I would never compare the two books except for the fact that, you know, this tiny little thing. Anywho, I just was missing a few things in this book that would have bumped it up to 5 stars. And I'm still invested in the series. If we get more Roar books, I will 1000% read them. I just wish this one had ironed out a few of those little wrinkles, and it definitely would have gotten very close to a 5 star if it had just changed a few minor things. So that's where I'm at. 4 books down, 1 book to go. I have Under the Same Stars by Libba Bray, I believe is the last book on my 5-star predictions. And hopefully I will be reading that in the first week of June. That is the plan at the moment, because I would like this to come out on June 6th, which means I would need to read that book so that I can then edit and upload this. So we'll see how that goes. And hopefully I will be checking back in with you in a couple of days to wrap this vlog up. So I have finally read the last of my 5-star predictions, and this check-in is long overdue because I read this a few weeks ago, but the last one I had to read was Under the Same Stars. I ended up giving this 4.75 stars, and of course we have a CLO. She is the star of the show after all. So I gave this 4.75 stars. It just missed that 5-star mark. This is a historical fiction that has 3 timelines. We follow, I'm not going to remember names, I know I'm not, Sophie and Hannah, who are in Kleinwald, Germany in 1939. Obviously, they're in the midst of World War II. And given that they're in Germany, it's obviously not a great time. And when they were younger, they used to write letters to the bridegroom's oak, because supposedly the love of your life will write back. And as the war kind of starts, we see them start to deal with the fact that they kind of have to give up that fantastical, whimsical, you know, innocent look at the world, because it's definitely making them realize that that's not how the real world works. Then we are in West Berlin in 1980, where we're following Jenny, whose dad got a job in West Berlin, so she and her family have relocated there. And she meets a girl named Lena, who is kind of everything she's not and is determined to tear down the wall. And she also has a neighbor named Frau Hermann, who's got some interesting stories and maybe some secrets. And then the third timeline is 2020, and we're in New York City, and we're following Miles and Chloe, who are in the early days of the pandemic. And Chloe's grandma has some secrets of her own, and it leads Chloe and Miles into investigating a cold case, 2 teenagers who went missing in a German forest 80 years ago, which would be right around 1939. So I really enjoyed the 3 timelines. It was really easy to connect New York City and Kleinwald. Obviously, I was really curious how Jenny was going to fit in, because it was so obvious that the 2 teens that Miles and Chloe were investigating were Sophie and Hannah. So it was like, how does Jenny fit into this? How does that kind of tie together everything that's going on? And I did end up figuring that out before we were told. But I thought it was really interesting how it kind of all came together. I thought each timeline was really well fleshed out and well done. I enjoyed each timeline when I was in it. Sometimes with these books that bounce back and forth, it will take me a minute to get back into the timeline. So it'd be like I'd be in Kleinwald, Germany, and I'd just get into it, and then we'd switch to West Berlin, and then I'd just get into West Berlin, and we'd switch to New York City. And I did not have that problem with this. That's always the worry when I have dual timelines or multiple timelines, is that the switching of the timelines will cause me to never be fully invested in the story. And Libba Bray did a fantastic job at keeping me invested in all 3 timelines all the way throughout. I really like how things came together. I liked finding out, what happened to Hannah and Sophie, what happened to Jenny, how, like I said, all of these stories connected. Seeing Miles and Chloe, and Miles was our POV for that, even though he interacted with Chloe, and Miles grows significantly as a person in this, and it is really interesting to see that. It was also really interesting to see how there were some parallels in all of these timelines, which I thought was really, really cool. The reason it did not quite get 5 stars is there were just a few little questions I had at the end that, while didn't necessarily need answers, I kind of wanted answers. So I couldn't give it that full 5 stars, but I really, really loved this book and had such a good time with it. So with that being said, I can give you my final wrap up. I know you just watched all the clips, but in case you wanted a final look and to, remind myself, I ended up with 1 5-star in I'm That Girl by Jordan Childs. 1 almost 5-star with Under the Same Stars, because I gave this 4.75 stars. A 4.25-star book in The Library of Borrowed Hearts. A 4-star read when I returned to Roar with Dragon Riders of Roar. And a 3.75 with The House at the Edge of Magic. So not a bad round. I did end up enjoying all of these books. And I just realized the titles are all upside down. That was not my intention. Oh, so yes, there we go. I didn't even think about the fact that I had them upside down. So this is my order from my favorite to my least favorite. I really enjoyed all of these. Obviously, I will be continuing Roar, and I do plan to continue the series that The House at the Edge of Magic started, even though it didn't quite get a 4. I had a fun time with this one. I think I picked out a good batch, and they were all very different. So if any of these sound interesting, I would highly recommend all of them. I had a good time with all of them, even though not all of them got 5 stars. So that's it for this vlog, for this round of 5-star predictions. Of the 5 books I read, which of them now sounds most interesting to you? Let me know in the comment section below. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me star emojis, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!